Okay. Yeah, so basically, I told you to strafe aim, and you're gonna shun people. You're gonna kill them a lot.
Yeah, but
Yeah, and you have had good success with that. I've seen your aim and overall your general consistency improve a lot. Um, but there's a lot more to it necessarily for especially damage intake that we can focus on a lot as well. Right? So,
okay.
before we actually get into it, have you had any problems with strafe aiming or problems with like strafe in general that you've had questions about, like specifically?
Uh, uh, well, actually, just recently, I started implementing like trying to implement like recall patterns into it, or
Okay.
like actual like to like kind of get the accuracy to the next level, and that's just like something I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
But it's funny, you mentioned like the dodging stuff, and that's something I was thinking recently. I still take a lot of damage in fights.
Yeah.
I feel like we could avoid. So it's like kind of good that you mentioned it.
Well, I have a full lesson plan for you, like right here, of
Let's
things.
go.
I literally wrote a bunch of things I'm going to talk about with you here,
Yeah.
and then things. So basically, the main thing I want to focus on is that strafe is broken up into two categories for the most part. Strafe being strafe aim and dodge. A lot of the time, I get people asking me, "Oh, how do I apply like goal bias, which is a dodge concept?" When I'm like
Mm-hmm.
strafing somebody, if I mirror somebody, I'm not implying goal bias unless they are. And it's like, well, these are two separate ideas, right?
Yeah.
Um, So it's important to make sure that we recognize that the goal of these things are two very different things. This is to
Mm-hmm.
reduce incoming damage. This is to maximize output damage. Okay. We don't care about incoming damage with strafe aim. We do care about incoming damage with dodge.
Mm-hmm.
Dodge can inadvertently affect our damage output, but only in like straight like 1v1 situations, right?
Yeah.
Um. So first off, why dodge? Right. It's kind of the question as to why would I dodge when I could just shoot my gun better, right? I
Yeah.
see a lot of reductive people that are probably just get on the game, play 12 hours a day, and go, "Oh, I mean, low key, if you shoot your gun better, you win, right?" And that is true. Don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong. If you do hit more bullets, you win. But you can influence damage intake naturally through a lot of different ways, right?
Yeah.
Um, there are positions in the game that are strong, like either statically, like oh, high ground is always good, or dynamically, like behind your opponent, right? Behind your opponent will
Yeah.
never be in the same place always. It's always depending on where they are. And those places are always good to take, but how do we get those positions? Dodge. An opponent will never let us take a position for free, ever. And if they do, they're bad and we
Mm-hmm.
kill them anyway. But I'm not teaching you to play against bad players. Teach you to play against the top tier, tier 1 players. Um, and so opponents will never let you take space for free. And this is where we apply dodge and good dodge fundamentals. You already know about global bias. It's a very
Mm-hmm.
simple staple. Fix your aim, fix your dodge, fix everything. Um, But we're gonna get more into the actual how you play positions, how you employ dodge to minimize your damage intake and maximize your damage output, kind of all in one without strafe aiming. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um. So previously, when I told you to strafe aim, I basically tell everybody who's very new to strafe aim to just go do it. It's very simple to just go out there, go do it. You have to tangibly feel how it is to strafe aim. While you can obviously practice strafe aiming in like an aim trainer, it's still stripped of context such as movement speed, how it feels in game, with like recoil and stuff like that. It's all very different. But now you're plenty familiar with it, I want to break up fights into basically two steps. One, we want to get a strong position, and two, from that strong position, we want to leverage it. Um, Even at a baseline level, this is still really important to do. But even at a very complicated level, this is still exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah.
In endgame zones, we're looking to leverage it on a macro level by pressuring other teams, holding the space, blah blah blah. Even in 1v1s, you're looking to do this because you rip a straight 1v1 against a player who is your skill slightly better, slightly worse. The win rate of that can be 50% with a variable like 10, right? It's like 40
Yeah.
to 60%. We don't want to win a fight 40% of the time. That's very bad for us. We never want to do that because that can just cost us, well, not only like placement but also like literal money, right? Your job. Um, so the important part is position. So, some important dodge. When it comes to dodge, there's typically two things I like to refer students to do. You're familiar with this top-down graph from last time,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to talk about two things. I'll talk about a lot of things. Speaking about relative to position. So, um, we want to either one escape their POV, right? Basically, what we're trying to do with
Yeah.
dodge, we're just trying to avoid the crosshair, no matter what. At the end of the day, one, we can either escape the POV, But this is only really suitable at close range, right? You can never escape their POV at long range, literally ever. They're too small,
Yeah.
too slow. You can't do anything about it, right? So 2, what you have to do is avoid crosshair, right? Just a very simple, like AD strafes, in games like Overwatch, it's a lot more viable to literally just 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, because characters lean into full
Mm-hmm.
animation and everything like that. In Apex, it's a little more complicated though, because there's movement acceleration and also characters animations are relatively slower. And this is where the concept
Oh,
of global bias comes in. What is your question?
I have a actually since they okay, this is actually I don't know. I when they nerf SMG ADS speed,
Mm,
I felt like strafing became like a lot more difficult. Have you had like any thought into like how it affects it? Because I feel like when they nerfed it, it's like I have less options to strafe when I'm like trying to take a fight. Because like
mhm.
the amount of movement I have is like now reduced.
That is true, and the fact that it does punish you more. But to be honest with you, I completely forgot that they nerfed strafe speed. But all nerfing strafe speed does is effectively punish the weapon at longer ranges, and also in closer ranges, right? But the thing is that
Yeah.
your strafe in closer ranges becomes more dependent on loot. That loot being a laser sight.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
you should feel very comfortable literally just ripping a hipfire on that. I'm sure you've been ripped by a car hipfire in a Horizon Lift, and that shit is crazy high spread, but it can still like one clip you, right? It can still rip you a new one
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
with
Okay.
with proper strafe fundamentals. Not necessarily strafe aim, but proper strafe fundamentals in general.
Yeah.
You can effectively manipulate where your opponents are gonna go. It will help a lot with your crosshair placement and stuff like that. Um, don't get me wrong, it does make SMGs worse, especially in the strafe space scenario. But in a situation where you should have been hip firing it anyway, it's not going to punish you at all, especially in these closer ranges. It more so punishes
Okay.
you in these mid ranges when you challenge more versatile weapons like ARs, marksmen, things like that, right?
Okay.
Which is honestly a healthier thing for the game, even if it does kind of suck. Um,
Okay.
but it does
Okay.
emphasize more so the importance of goal bias overall. Um,
Okay.
Now, as a precursor to this, I will say that lurching. I talked about lurching a little bit last time, but lurching
Mm-hmm.
can effectively manipulate how much you can avoid the opponent's crosshair in these longer ranges, right? You can basically
Mm-hmm.
do the Overwatch thing. What lurching does is that it essentially, well, when we go from one direction to the other, we input an A and then a D key. Our speed has to go to 0, right? But what we're doing with
Yeah.
lurching is we're doing an oval like this, so we avoid this period here where our speed has to go to 0. It basically means we don't have movement acceleration. I'm not here to teach you about how to do lurching because that's not really my specialty.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know of Zeto in some capacity. Zeto's
Yeah.
basically a really good player who does this. So there's a bunch of Mad Maggie one tricks who go on her, who throw her ult and then go all day
Yeah.
in their ult,
Yeah.
right? But the thing is,
Yeah.
their dodge isn't good because they don't apply global bias and they don't do it relative to their opponent. They do it statically. They just go and they go, all right, Neo Strafe
I
mode. Dun, 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 dun.
I learned this strafe recently. Yuki strafe. I don't know if that's the actual
Uh,
name of it,
yeah,
but
Yuki Strafe and stuff like this. Stuff like
like
this can be really good. Don't get me wrong. But again, it's all about the application, the raw how you actually do
yeah.
it. As long as you do it, fine. It's like whatever. But it more so
Okay.
matters how you do it properly, right?
Yeah. This definitely looks like a more of like a shotgun tool than
Mm,
anything.
mm.
But it's like the I need to experiment more with the SMG hipfire like movement.
Oh, is this like?
Like
Oh, is this just a raw strafe where you just?
this is like a raw strafe, but you tap strafe twice. So you do
Oh,
like
okay,
you go left right left kind
okay,
of thing.
yeah. The other problem with stuff like this is that if not done properly, you just end up going in a straight line but
Yeah,
worse.
slow.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
just go in a straight
yeah.
line but worse.
But
Um,
I mean, the thing with that was it was surprisingly consistent. Like I haven't like had like actual game applications with it yet, but
yeah. This
like there's like potential.
Yeah. If you could absolutely do this 100%. There's someone I follow on Twitter named Doki. He is very good. He's probably one of the best MNQ players I've seen in general because he
Mhm.
understands things to a fundamental level and he's more so learning how to do stuff like this on top of his already really good strafe. Um,
Yeah.
it's something to learn more so after the fact rather than while you're learning everything else because it's more important to know the on paper how it works rather than trying to spice it up later.
Yeah, I definitely should focus more on the basic strafe
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
literally everybody should until like even like a couple
yeah,
months after. But yeah. But basically all the Ross Yuki lurching stuff, very
yeah.
good if you know what you're doing, but you have to know this stuff before you do that. Like it doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
how much damage you avoid, you have to win a fight by dealing damage, no matter what. It just ultimately comes down to
Yeah.
the fact that it also impacts your damage it impacts your damage output a good bit because not only are you jumping, right, you're moving your camera a lot. You have to be able to move
Mm-hmm.
your crosshair in accordance with it. It's just and obviously you can get good consistent with it, right? But we're looking for more overall consistency, which Strafe can provide. A lot of people will do dumb movement when they already have an advantage and just completely throw and not know what they're doing. Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and if you do mess up these like raw strafes or whatever, I've seen people try to do a raw strafe and they jump in a straight line and get one clipped, and it's very like
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, true. That's why I don't. That's why I said I'm learning it
Yeah,
still.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
would not go in a comp game, or I would not go into a comp match
Yeah.
and immediately rip it. I'm doing ranked, but
Yeah.
um, the only thing that I would recommend is that raw strafes are just really good for bubble fights. But who the fuck plays Gibby? uh, raw strafes are also good for a very certain type of peak that I'll get into later. That's later down in the curriculum for today. Um, so avoiding the crosshair. Typically, we will rely more so on global bias and the aforementioned rules of dodge in our previous session, where if our strafe is working, keep doing it. If it's not working, change it immediately. Um, but when we're actually trying to do little AD strafes like this, it's very hard to do unless you have proper lurching. Okay, does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The global bias and everything. It's like I think this is something I probably haven't really done. Is that you do this stuff when you just hip firing, right? Too. It's just like
Yeah,
yeah. Okay. Because like I think I don't like really think about when I'm hip firing. I just kind of like I think of it as a last resort thing instead of like a valid choice, And I
I
think I need to change that.
I actually that's actually the next thing I can't talk. That's actually the next thing I'm going to be talking about. Um, The next thing I have to talk about
Woo!
is range. So,
Okay.
uh, range is something that it's pretty obvious what it already is. I don't need to sit here and be like the SMGs are good in close range and medium range, right? But it's
Yeah.
more so important the nuance that we understand, right? So
Yeah.
we're just gonna break down three different ranges: close, medium, far. They're two hybrids: close, medium, far, right? And this isn't to scale, but you know what it feels like to do this, and anybody
Yeah.
watching this
Yeah.
video can probably understand this, right?
Yeah.
Um, so we need to understand that specifically when we get closer to opponents, we get bigger, right?
Mhm.
Our hitbox goes from smaller to bigger because we occupy more screen space, but it also comes at the change that we move faster relative on their screen, right?
Yeah.
Um, and when we go from close to far, we do the opposite. This also means that walking in a straight line at somebody is worse than walking a straight line away from somebody, just because we get bigger, right? It's
Yeah.
This creates a sense of my nose is burning. I don't know why, but this creates a sense of this creates threat when you're trying to get close to somebody, right? If you're playing double close range weapon and you're stuck in the medium range, you have to go at this person, right? But you're gonna take a lot of incoming damage, yeah.
Yeah.
It's also really important when it comes to dodge to make sure that I'll say a majority of the time you have to take damage to win a fight. There's no perfect dodge you can get to negate all your opponent's damage. Sure, sometimes you can win fights by not taking damage, but it's very rare. It's usually against opponents you don't know what they're doing, or you catch them so off guard and you maintain that advantage, right? Um,
Mhm.
so it's really easy. It's extremely easy for us to enable ourselves. If we have these two guns, R9, like R301, right? We're
Yeah.
good in all of these ranges, yeah. That's about it.
Yeah.
But maybe a little bit far. And it's really easy to let's just go in this range, right? But it's really important to make sure that we disable our opponent more so than enable us, right? If opponent has a shotgun, we have an SMG. We want to avoid the close range and play more toward medium range. We want to hit strafes backwards to get distance on our opponent. And this disabling our opponent it lowers the gap between how often we lose fights. Especially because there can also be straight up invisible factors we don't know, right? We can go, we have the best close range gun in the game, and then the enemy goes, I have an L-Star, or okay, I guess it's not in the care package anymore. I have a Prowler. I have,
Yeah.
something you don't know. I have red armor at some. I have red armor, and you didn't know that because you had the full send me, and you have white, so you
Yeah.
die, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we want to keep these invisible factors to the lowest. This is typically called risk mitigation, and risk mitigation is
Mm.
important. Seer was really good because his ult was complete risk mitigation. You always knew where everybody was, the angles you had to hold. You always knew things like that, right? The straight up wall
Yeah.
hacks. So it's important to make sure that you take fights at it's important to make sure that they take fights at not just your strongest, but also try to take them at the opponent's weakest, which takes a lot of real time adjustment, which you should be doing anyway with a proper strafe aim, right? Like I said earlier, we don't want to go into fights and just rip strafe aim on everybody, because while we can, we're eventually going to run into either the 1MNK player or we're going to mess up and they're going to be a good player and still shit on us, right? Like a controller player can still one clip you with a mirror. Like I think like the ex Halo players in Apex could, like probably a snipe or something.
Yeah.
But because strafe is more important in that game. So I also want to bring to light there's a certain range that aim assist is really strong in, and this is kind of the range where you always get clipped, and it's going to be something like this, right?
Yeah.
This range is basically how aim assist works. It's basically where it's at its strongest because you're not far enough that you're too small, and you're not too close where you're too big. Now I don't know if you've ever like straight up just 1v1 a controller player for a long period of time. But if you do so and you play with the range, literally if you get too close to a controller player, they can't hit you ever.
Yeah.
You are too big on their screen, and they have to move their crosshair too much to hit you. Now, granted, again, really good controller players will properly strafe and actually, manipulate space on you. But if you can maintain the position in front of them here, you can actually outtrade them pretty easily because it's really easy to hit them. If you maintain proper speed here, you can do really well, right? But this also comes with the problem of if your preferred range is something here, right? Let's say if the opponent has like AR, like shotgun, right? Which would lead the you obviously want to go back, but going straight back in the aim assist range can be dangerous. But the ARs are really good. Well, ARs are solid close range and medium range, but they fall off in this range because they either have to ADS or hip fire. But hip fire in this range is really bad, right? Because this is kind of the range where your bullets are basically in a 50-50 hit or miss.
Yeah.
And shotgun obviously close range. You want to avoid close range. I don't need to say that. It's all even if if you position yourself here, right, and you want to get closer to your opponent, it might be worthwhile, even though you're taking more damage here. It's better to take the damage from going forward than it is to just stay in this range. Does that make sense? Because again,
Yeah.
we should be okay. We should be comfortable taking damage. We're gonna have to take damage, and it's better to take 150 damage than to get one clipped. Straight up, right? Like period. We're walking forward in the aim assist range. We have to do this, or we can pile back. It's up to you what you want to do. It depends on the range of the weapons. Obviously, I'm presenting this very reductionist. It's stripped of any context. We can kind of create context later for it, but this is an important set of rules that we need to work with to actually understand. Okay. So the next thing you asked me specifically about SMGs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Weapons all have their preferred ranges, and so it takes a good bit of mental deliberation that I myself can't really do super well. But your effectiveness in the close range can really be limited by just the existence of laser sights on SMGs. Like if you don't have a laser sight, you can probably play like this comfortably, right? But with laser sight, you can probably with like a purple, you can definitely play more up to here. You should feel comfortable with hip firing any gun, because any gun like here, I would say. Maybe if we extend this this range a little bit further like this. But any gun can hip fire basically here, no matter what gun you're using. Spitfire, Rampage, like longbow, right? If they're so close in your face that they physically can't avoid the bullet, right? The hip firing is completely fine. The advantages we have in this really close range is that if we ADS with our gun, especially with the bigger guns like Spitfire, right? If we ADS with Spitfire, we're trading all of our speed. Speed is really important to make sure that we manipulate properly for dodge, right? Because I mean, if I ask you what's harder to hit, a guy ADSing Spitfire or a Horizon who just hit a gravity cannon and is flying at Mach speed, right? It's obvious. And so by you being faster means that you can manipulate yourself across the screen more often. So an Octane stimming running at you to the side here is going to be impossible because he's literally going to start circling you, which is really good for him to do, right? So when we're in close range, we want to see that hipfire is literally the exact essence of dodge. We're trading off the guaranteed chance for hitting, unless we're super close. We're trading off the guaranteed chance to hit for the relative decrease in damage, right? We're going to take less damage. We're also going to slightly deal less damage, right? SMGs kind of, it's the weapon class kind of breaks that law because laser sights, right? But it's an important deliberation to come up with the fact that we just can't hit every bullet. We should feel comfortable hip firing weapons though, because the speed it gives us will make us not unhittable, but less likely to be hit. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
So the key thing I want you to remember, especially from this distance here, is I want to make sure that the idea of disabling your opponent is more important than enabling yourself. Obviously, sometimes you should enable yourself. We'll get to that like at the end of the session a little bit more, but this is kind of a basic understanding of range and how we want to manipulate range to our advantage, right? It is way easier to avoid damage by not being on the opponent's screen because it's just escape their crosshair, right? The whole idea, Apex has a lot of speed modifiers. I mean, a simple slide jump is a speed modifier, right? We're not all, well, I'm just going to contextualize in Overwatch because that's what the game you played. We're not all Overwatch characters with the relatively same speed, except for a couple characters and their like sprint abilities and things like that. If every character, but like they all move the same speed at a baseline level. Apex characters can slide jump, wall bounce, like tap, like super glide. Like they have a lot of speed manipulation at our hands. And so when we're using speed manipulation, we're using speed manipulation for two things. One, we're looking to get in close range, right? Getting in close range is, pretty good for us because when we use speed manipulation, we can get out of the opponent's crosshair, right? Or we're using speed manipulation to do this. You can also use speed manipulation on the outside here to become harder to hit. But if someone's super gliding at like sideways to you like this, and they're in medium range, they're still pretty easy to hit, right? Yeah. It's not very. It doesn't matter what speed you have, unless it's an incredibly high speed. Especially because of movement acceleration in this game. If your speed is 5,000, right, and you decide to turn like this, you're gonna be turning for like 4 seconds, and then you're gonna hit 5,000 speed again, and then go the other direction. Of course, tap strafing exists, so this will be different. This will be different, but especially if you're playing more comp focused, the controller players can't tap strafe. Obviously, they can like ranked and stuff like that, but
yeah.
Here, you rely way more on cover, and you rely way more on simple, effective things like global bias and stuff like that, right? And the idea of cover, I can talk dodge theory all day with you, but at the end of the day, the easiest way to avoid cover or to avoid damage is to be in cover. How much damage do you take in cover from traditional methods? 0 until you start getting nades and shit thrown at you. But we can also leverage cover against opponents, even if they're playing it. So I want to talk about something else before we get into it as well. But the idea of timing. Timing is just the idea that we're going to focus on a bad opportunity for our opponent that we capitalize on. The easiest way to do so is, well, they're not looking at us, right? I'm just gonna type POV. Yeah. If they're not looking at us, we easily jump them. That's a timing thing, right? They're looking at a different team. This is more of a macro thing than a micro thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not really gonna focus on it too much. The main thing we can focus on is ammo. Now, the L-Star is my favorite weapon this season, and you know why?
Okay. Yeah, because
there's no magazine on it. I just need to feather it for the ammo, right? So this effectively means that if I start a fight, right? Let's say I start a fight against somebody and I manage to either super glide their POV, right? I manage to imply some form of dodge where they waste 7 out of their, let's say they have a blue mag, like 23 bullets, right? Out of their R9, right?
Yeah.
Now their effective damage output is what, 15, right? Is that how math works? Is that 15? I'm pretty sure it's 15. They have 15 bullets. That's like 150 damage at max to hit all shots, right? Not counting headshots, right? But 150 damage. If I have anything more than white armor, this person can physically no longer kill me, right? This is what we're trying to do when we're trying to employ dodge, especially as well, right? We can't avoid every bullet, but if we can avoid a good portion of an opponent's bullets, it becomes a point where they physically cannot kill us, yeah? Especially if we leverage weapons that have a bigger magazine size, we can start to, wide swing opponents more. We can be a bot. We can just hit one direction, and as soon as they just, miss a couple shots on us, we can just keep strafing in that direction. They can't kill us. We can just focus on us killing them. Yeah. Now the inverse is true for us. If we're running a small magazine weapon, something that's limited by individual shots, like a peacekeeper, for example. You can get timing on a peacekeeper really easily, right? Because the reload is so long. There's a rechamber. Even like the EVA 8, it has a decent mag size, but it chews through it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So it's important that when we're in situations like this, we want, whenever our damage output is 0, we want our damage intake to be either 0 or as minimal as possible, right? Should we have to reload, rechamber, anything like that, we want to make sure that we go into cover or employ the most dodge possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This is I'm going to go. I have a clip of this. Into Windows sound. Okay, I will have to go to. So this is all credits to Raven, the coach for TSM, for this, because I'm taking it from his Discord. But he has the best example that I can kind of provide. And I don't really see a reason to get another example, as long as I properly credit him. Where the hell is his Discord? Am I stupid? Here it is. Here it is. So this is an example of Hal himself being a timing player, right? This is from the 1v1 tournament that G Dolphin had a while ago. It was controller v controller. I want you to notice specifically how Hal fights here. So fight starts. They go contest the middle rock, as you should. You should always contest this rock in 1v1s. But they both climb out. They're both controller players of relatively equal skill. Hal hits a bigger beam, but it's not by a wide enough margin for it to actually matter, right? So what Hal does here, Hal climbs and cancels the climb. This guy shoots his gun once or twice. He shoots his R9 for like 7 shots here. Then Hal slides out to a different direction, waits a little bit, climbs up, and catches this guy completely off guard. This guy has his pants down, right? This guy is looking the other direction. This guy is looking this way, right? Because Hal made noise over here, he's drawing the opponent's attention towards where they think he should be. Especially because audio is unreliable in this game. It's a really solid tactic to do. I mean, even if the audio was good in this game, it's still really hard to predict that somebody's going to swing out in a different direction like this, right? This is all employing solid dodge tactics to avoid the enemy's crosshair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even a more simple.
Yeah, I love that clip. It's how to be a
cerebral fighter. It's winning by being smarter. It's so. Disable. I downloaded the clip somewhere. I need to find it. Not organized. Oh wait, no. Did I put on my coaching? No, I didn't. I should have done that. My ass is not prepared.
That's okay. Okay, I have time before my grind needs to start. It's all good.
You better end Pred this season.
There's no way I don't end Pred. It's like something bad has to happen for me not to end Pred this season.
I found it.
Nice.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is Raven playing pubs. Obviously, these are pub players. These are very not smart players, but it's a perfect example of the thing in action. Right. So I'm just gonna let it play. Right. Obviously, he gets high ground here. He's fine on high ground. He hits his shots, right? But the important thing is, the most important core part of this thing here is that when he walks up here, the Watson can't shoot him because she's reloading. That's the whole thing about it, right? It's just as simple as that. The timing can be a simple dodge technique that if their damage output is 0, you can kill them 100%, right? So if you manage to bait, like, I mean, you've probably done this in a macro sense with like a Kraber. If somebody shoots 4 shots at the Kraber, you rotate now, please, when he doesn't get blown up, right? But you can do it in a lot of various ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the way I'm thinking is like I can start against like in different fights in different situations. You can like have like a different assortment of like little tricks you can do to
Exactly.
get advantage. Yeah,
We're throwing
putting a little
pocket sand in
trick
their
build.
eyes if we can.
Yeah. That's how I'm like categorizing it.
Yeah,
It's like if you can just do everything you can to take advantage, like bait bullets, like trick audio,
exactly.
like yeah,
Everybody in this game just forces 50-50 aim duels, and they win or they lose, and that's the end of it. People always go mechanics
yeah,
are like Strafe. This is also mechanics. This is how the game
yeah.
flows. This is how you interact with the
No,
game, and as an interface for it. That's mechanics. Right.
I think it's like I've been a player like that in other games, but in this game I've been too focused on just like win the duel, kind of like just fight
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
mentality.
It's really easy to
Like
fall in that too, because it's really rewarding or really punishing.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, it feels good. Like yes, I won.
I shot that guy. Let's go. But then you get shot, and you're
Yeah,
like,
but
okay, I need to get better. And then
yeah,
yeah.
gotta start doing little tricks, you know.
Um, you're gonna be really annoying, but you can go do this in R5 also. I do this in R5, and I'm sure people are like, fucking wrthcrw won't fight me, and I'm like, no, I'm just being like strategically better than you, because you have to. Timing is really important to play against people, because how people play is very, you can you can think you're being smart and clever, but at the end of the day, if you've never practiced it, you can't. Like all of dodge and all of strafe is contextualizing against a real breathing person who with their own thoughts and their own game plan. The smarter they are, the more you have to play around it. But obviously, like, the dumbest players in the world, you can probably do something stupid and it'll work. Even against good players, might be able to do something stupid and it would still work, right? So everything that I'm saying here, you have to remember that you have to practice against real breathing people, especially if you're gonna play shit on rank this season. It's a good time to do it
Yeah.
too. I like doing
Hmm.
it in R5 as well. So anything like that, you just cannot learn this in a name trainer. You cannot learn this in like anything other than an actual game. Does all of this make sense? Everything I'm about to talk about so far?
Yeah, timing POV, ammo, manipulating the damage, distance, cover. Your
Distance, enabling yourself, disabling your opponent, aim assist
yeah,
range, walking forward, walking backward.
yeah, yeah,
Last thing I want to say is that if you want to take space forward, let's say you have to, because
yeah.
it's either your guns are really good for it, or you kind of have to because you have to fight them or whatever. There's typically two methods of doing so. The main method that is used in Apex is all at once. You either just you go, hey, I'm super gliding at you, I'm running at you, I'm killing you, right? You just run at that guy. You take all the space as fast as possible. You gobble it up. The most proper way to do this is with the concept of timing.
Hmm.
If they're reloading their gun, take all the space. If they're rechambering their PK, take the space. But as soon as they can shoot you, stop running in a straight line at them, right? Two, piece by piece. Piece by piece is a little bit harder to do in this game, just because it's not only permadeath, but also the time to kill in this game can be tragically slow, or tragically fast, rather. You can die in 0.5 seconds. That's barely enough time to pick a different direction to strafe in. But
Yeah,
should you be in a situation where you can take it piece by piece, it is a viable option. So what do I mean by that? Let's say we start here and we want to end up, in the close range. So what we do is we strafe side. Let's say our opponent has a PK and we're just gonna strafe up with it. They shoot their PK, we walk up. We strafe a little bit to dodge. They shoot their PK, we walk up. Blah 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 blah. Right? We repeat ad nauseum until we get to our objective. They're dead or we're dead. The game that this is way more applicable in is Halo, by the way. Halo has a really high time to kill sometimes, especially with the more burst weapons. If they miss a burst and you miss a burst, well,
yeah,
And also notice that in all of these situations I presented to you about how you can strafe, you can deliberately strafe aim too. We can go, this is dodge, and then, this is dodge walking up, and then this is strafe aim. We can mirror them now, right? We might
yeah,
decide to mirror them. Okay. Now we're trying to anti-mirror them here. We weave in and out of strafe aim forms as much as we think is, good to. As soon as we have some sort of damage advantage, especially, as soon as we are outside the opponent's periphery, as soon as we are behind them, as soon as we are whatever, this is when we can decide to engage in a strafe aim form. Now, that doesn't mean that strafe aim is always the correct answer, but it can be, right? If you take a good angle on somebody and they can't shoot you, strafe aim can be a lot of the best answer. But there's some more advanced stuff I'll get to later, especially when geometry gets involved, right? Because everything I've talked about has been completely stripped of geometry. Now we're gonna get into a little bit more of the geometry stuff. Okay. Any other questions or anything?
No, not right now. I'm just trying to like conceptualize this in my brain. It's like
Yeah, absorb.
Yeah. You keep going. Keep going.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. So before we talk about geometry and anything like that, I want to talk about something. I want to talk about a base level idea. This idea is player sphere, player dome, player whatever, right? I believe you were in my stream like several months ago when I was talking about this, and you said you never thought about this. Player sphere is the idea. So if this is a guy, right? Hello, guy. This is a guy, and this guy can move. The average human reaction time is 300 milliseconds, right? For gamers, especially people in their youth, like I would say before 30s, probably lower to like 200, because the average of all humans is considering, older people that have never gamed before, people who haven't been doing this a long time. Gamers, I would say, definitely push the 100 to 200 ms, and this is just literally the natural delay your brain has with communicating with information, right? But let's say 300 for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of any person watching this video. What we do with the player sphere is we are representing any area that a person can move within 300 milliseconds, right? So we have front, left, back, right. Or I didn't say it in the right order, but still they have their 4 directions they can go, and then 8 diagonals. If they're on controller, they can technically move in 8, but it doesn't really matter. Expressing in 8 is perfectly fine, right? And Apex doesn't have any like flying, so you don't have to worry about vertical mobility or any of that stuff. And either way, we'll simplify to 8. So from a top-down view, this is what it looks like. It's a circle. Wow, I've been drawing circles this entire time. Big surprise, big reveal, right? So this means that a player can move in any of the 8 directions, right? So what we're doing with geometry is we are going to try and limit our opponent's player sphere while maximizing our own, right? So let me provide an example. If you are against a wall like this, you're against a wall like this, your player sphere is not, this isn't cut in half, even though it's half of a circle, because you can still move left and right? Because normally you have, let me draw the directions you can go, let me draw the directions you can't go. So directions you can go will be in blue. You can go to the left, right, forward, and then diagonals. You can't go backward, diagonal back, right? This only realistically cuts off 3 directions, but the 3 directions is a lot. 3 out of the, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 directions, right? That's like, I don't know percentages. Yeah. They're at 8. But it's still important. It's still important to fundamentally understand how much this affects our overall strafe, right? So, when we're trying to fight people, we want to maximize our player dome and reduce our players' effective player dome. There is, I like to put a difference between effective dome versus expected dome, right? Expected means we're in their brain. Expected means that we have limited their options. They obviously can take the options that are bad, but they're not likely to. Effective means what the reality actually is of the situation, right? So, for example, one of the number one solutions I like to talk about is the infinite wall, right? And this isn't true for every game, but for Apex specifically, if you are caught against a wall here, and an opponent, let me do this. Let's say there are 5 positions, but we're limited to 3, right? Because 4 and 5 are the same thing as. There's a opponent against a wall, and there are 3 places you can be. Which one is the strongest?
1.
Why 1?
I feel like that's the most movement in the screen.
Remember that the goal is we're trying to maximize ours and minimize our opponents, right? So what we're doing, so if we go to 1, our opponent can still effectively move this way, this way, right? Well, our opponent can't go that way, but our opponent can move in 3 directions, right? They can't move, left and right, but because we'll kill them, but they can move in 3 directions. Now, if we do here, right? If we move here, our opponent can only move 2 directions, right?
Okay, I see what you mean. Okay.
Alternatively, if we position ourselves on a diagonal here, if we position ourselves on a diagonal here, this is commonly referred to as a 45 degree because it's 45 degrees. I don't really need to explain that one. But if we position ourselves on a 45 degree, obviously we have our full movement sphere, right? We can do whatever we want. But our opponent has their options relatively limited because now what we're doing is we're applying control over the space, right? When we're standing in front of our opponent here, we aren't applying control over the space except for forward backward space, which is which can be good. Don't get me wrong, but we're not applying pressure to the left and the right. So this person's dodge is 100% assuming they don't need to move forward or backward, right? And even if they do need to move forward or backward, they can force a forward movement. So they're still even at like a 75% dodge here, right? However, if we're at somebody's diagonal right here, well, sure, we have less effectiveness on total amount of angles, but the trade-off comes off that we can effectively steer where they go. We're literally steering them like a cow, right? Let's say they want to move this way, or they want to move. I can't. Please select the freaking tool. Oh my, where's my pen? There it is. They want to move this way. Well, we can either just mirror them, or we can just sort of cut them off here, or we can anti-mirror them, or we have 3 options. We even have more options than that if you count diagonals, right? They want to move diagonally at us. Well, we kill them. That's kind of simple. They want to move away from the wall. We can match their speed, and they will never get any further from us possible, ever, right? We can again mirror them. We have a wide girth of options for what you can do. The only thing that they can do is move these 2 directions, which is diagonal this direction, it makes them easy to hit, or they move diagonal this direction, which is again diagonal, makes it easier to hit. I would say in a majority of the situation, to establish control over your opponent, a 45 is better. To overall just straight up aim duel somebody, the straight up in front of somebody is better.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Okay,
if you ever get somebody against the wall, take one of these 2 angles on them. I would say in the majority, take the 45. But the only problem is that the 45 can also ensure the opponent's lethality as well. But you have full dodge effectiveness. They don't. You should be able to out damage them in most situations. If you don't, you're probably getting aim diffed, or you're not strafing properly. Okay. I'm pretty sure in Aimer 7's guide, which everyone says is gospel, and it's pretty good. Don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure he talks about the 90 instead of the 45. I believe the 45 is better, straight up, for this reason. Okay.
Okay.
But giving you both sides of the perspective here. You can play with it, you can feel it around, but especially for controller players, take the 45. It's so easy to kill somebody when they move so much slower, especially on a controller. It's actually insane. You need so little precision to do anything. You can only continue to strafe at them, and then they will die. Do you have questions about the
my approach? Okay, it depends on the character I have. Because of the tools, right? But my approach to controller player is that I would be in them, like in their sphere.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You could just walk at this guy and get up all in his junk, right? You can get in this guy's sphere. Your guys' spheres can kiss.
I think what I'm gonna try is I'm gonna try playing tricks, and then I'm just gonna like slide jump at them, like,
I mean, yeah, literally, you can do that.
Yeah.
When you have speed manipulation at your side, Apex is kind of a gorgeous game in my opinion, because it has constant tools for you to use speed manipulation. That's why I like strafing this game. I don't like strafing in Overwatch, because even if I play soldier, I'm like do I can't do both at the same time, and it drives me crazy, right? But in this game, I can slide jump at somebody and shoot them the entire fucking time.
I'm gonna try jiggle peeking boxes, make them reload their gun, and then I'm just gonna try to super glide at them. See how it works.
You should have. Yeah. Now let me flip this idea on you. Let me ask you. Now I've told you what to do if you're in the winning position. Now let's say you messed up somewhere along the line, and now you are up against the wall. What do you do if you're against this wall?
If I'm against the wall,
because now you know how bad it is to be, and let's say your opponent is like smart and like will kill you.
Yeah.
Right. What do you do here?
Okay, I think the best. Okay, the 2 things that I would try to do probably if I'm against the wall is 1, try to get away from it, either by like just like the fastest way out, just like go forward, and then like use that like that tiny space, that tiny gap you made, as like a buffer to like trick movement a little bit.
Yeah.
So like.
That's
like I've done that with some success. It's like
that is actually the correct answer for the most part. What was your other thing?
Just like just try to movement your way out, like wall bounce, go along the wall. Just like actually don't take the fight even.
Ideologically, those are the exact same ideas, just different executions. Yeah. What I'm gonna label this term as is something called counterswinging.
Yeah.
If someone swings you, the thing about Apex is that the person who has control over the fight usually wins it. Unless there's something that goes horribly wrong. Typically, the person that is sieging, the attacker in the game has the advantage, assuming they're playing it properly, because they're looking for advantages and then capitalizing off those advantages. A defending team needs to counter siege. So what do you do when someone swings you? You should, in some situations, counter swing. Now, you shouldn't always counter swing, because sometimes going away from the wall will expose you to more enemies. And fighting a disadvantage as 1v1 is better than fighting equally, like an equal footing 1v2, right? The one, because fighting an extra person or being down a person is the worst thing you can have in this game. Period. Possible. Doesn't matter. So counter swinging is a tool that we can rely on. Straight up, if someone swings you like this, you know they're gonna swing you. Slide jump away from the wall. Fatigue wall bounce away from the wall. Get away from the wall as much as possible. Especially if someone's gonna ape you, right? If someone just goes crazy and just like oh, right, and they send you like this, and then you slide jump out around them like this. Now you have the option to now if they get pressured, right? If this is not a walking turret and this is an actual person, they could just back up into the wall, and that would be the worst mistake ever. Because, well, you just flipped it, right? And even then, their effective strafe space is limited because they can't go backward at all, right? And now you have the full range of motion in which you can go, completely unrestricted. Make sense?
Yeah.
So, remember that the goal is always to restrict our opponent's player sphere and maximize our own. If we can't restrict the opponents, we look to maximize our own. If we are in a situation where we are disadvantaged because of our player sphere, we want to try and reclaim that. Now, let me provide another example. Let's say we are an infinite tight ass hallway that can barely fit more than one person. So there's plenty of situations like this, especially on World's Edge, staircases, and some hallways in Stormpoint, I think, right? Where there's an opponent right here, and you are just in front of them. It doesn't really matter. The semantics of where don't really matter, right? But what do you do in this situation? How do you dodge in this situation?
Do you even dodge?
No. To be honest with you, no. We're trying to minimize the enemy damage output. Now, what's a good way to minimize the enemy damage output? We kill them, right? We kill them. They're dead. They can't do any damage. There is a couple situations in where you could possibly do something like this, where if you're a little bit closer range, like this, the opponent's here, and you're here, you could like slide jump here to the side, and now you have effective dodge space, right? Now you have effective space in which you can wrangle and wrestle with your opponent, right? But the trade-off coming that you can't move forward or backward at all, right? There's some rectangle platforms on World's Edge, like outside of Lava Fissure, the buildings. They have a little like balcony with a door, right, with a pill on it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Those rectangle platforms. This is a good example of what you want to do there. You want to try and engage somebody where you have more dodge space, and especially if they're going to back themselves up and fight in a corner like this, their strafe space is restricted, right?
Yeah.
So you can always flip the axis of movement to something that you prefer more than would be good for them, right? Obviously, you could just take a straight aim fight right here, right? But if you are in this hallway and you have to fight this guy, you have to fight this guy no matter what. What should you do here? Probably just straight up strafe aim. There is a there is a practice of dodging where, it's called baiting, and I'm sure most people know about this to an extent. But the proper use of it is especially useful when you're in tight in restricted corridors, right? The idea being that, especially in Overwatch, you can do this in Overwatch. You might have had this done to you, but have you ever had an opponent just walk on a wall and you can't hit them because they're still walking into the wall?
Walking into the wall?
Yeah, they're just walking in. They're just they strafe to the right like this, and they go left, and they go right, and then they keep walking into the wall.
I do that, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone do that to me.
It's
like intentionally, at least.
Yeah, if you can intentionally do this to throw off opponent's aim, it's a little risky, but like I said before, trying to do anything, I don't care what you're doing. If it's working, it's working. But this is mostly applicable in respawn based games like Overwatch, because in Overwatch I can do this to you and die and be like, oh well, right. But in Apex, if I do this to you and I die, I'm like, well, I just cost the game, right? It's very different. But last ditch effort, you 100% could. 100% could.
Yeah. I think that's like actually one thing that I didn't think of is that when I played Overwatch and like the movement I did in that game, like obviously there was like less like analytical thought behind it. It was more like, you know, I do a silly trick and it works kind of
Yeah,
vibes,
I
right?
mean,
And
yeah, it's a respawn based system. You can do risks like that.
yeah, but like it's like I should take those risks in this game too, because that's how you like make like a possibly losable
Like
fight
comeback.
into a winning fight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's like why try to come back the fair way, right? That's
Yeah.
stupid. People
Yeah.
have like
The whole idea behind risks is that if the reward is worth it, go for it, right? But
yeah
you personally have to deem that it's worth it. It's one of the first things I teach more advanced students, especially like people that finally have a grasp on their aim and their movement. I teach them to go for risks early game and late game. Well, at least in pubs. Late game, you know, just like chill a little bit so you can close out the game. Don't do the same thing you're doing early game, right? But in situations where like 1 HP and someone's swinging you, just hit the stupidest shit ever. It's a risk, but like, what are you gonna do? Just die anyway? Like, just go for it.
yeah
I've hit straight one clips on people because I just hit the like the silly strafe on them, and I just hit every bullet, and then they die. So, um, in a more serious manner, when you do have limited strafe space, I wish I had this clip, but my hard drive died. Um, where you can, if you start on the outer range of a area that's restrained, right? So let's say I start like over here and I strafe hard to the wall like this to try and dodge my opponent. When I go away from the wall, I can totally just walk back to the wall, right? Because I still have the space to move in. I shouldn't neglect that space, especially if you're doing it with timing, as I said earlier. If you're in the flow of the game, your opponent has like a 30-30, a peacekeeper, some sort of single fire action weapon. If you change your
yeah
direction right when they shoot, or right before they shoot, this can cause them to overshoot, right? And then you can just strafe back this way or strafe at them and capitalize off the advantage, capitalize the fact that they miss, things like that. Does that make sense?
yes yeah it does okay.
Okay. Um, the other thing I want to talk about, specifically, I mentioned earlier about effective player sphere versus real player sphere. This gets to be a little bit more complicated when we talk about peeking and cover, um, because how we perceive opponents in like 3D world and how we can look at angles to peek at and how we can minimize the output of opponents. So the first thing I want to talk about. Do you know what a threshold is? I don't think I've talked to you about thresholds, but
No, I don't think you have.
thresholds are things like doors. They're just entrances from one place to another. Basically, if it's an endgame zone, think about what teams could play if they have to coexist. Think about what places one team could play that another team couldn't play, right?
Okay, yeah.
Some simple examples. A head glitch. This is a threshold. It separates the not head glitch from the head glitch, right? It's just you
Okay.
can draw like an imaginary line here. A door is the simplest way to explain a head glitch because it's just one side of the door, other side of the door. Also, door frame-like structures, like on Olympus, these weird-ass cylindrical buildings like this that have like the glass here and like the like empty hallway here, and then there's a door back here. These buildings,
Yeah.
like this part right here, this is a threshold, and then this is a threshold over here, and then this is a threshold. Well, I guess there's not. I guess it's technically a threshold. It's not a very strong one. But yeah, thresholds have different strengths. Obviously, not every threshold is born equal. A tiny box is not the same thing as a fucking head glitch, right? And it's important to understand how we play thresholds properly to actually mitigate opponent's damage. So, um, the idea of exposure. Exposure is just how exposed you are to the open, right? If you're standing in the middle of
Yeah.
a field, you can get shot in any direction. It's kind of like a player sphere, but for incoming damage. If you know where people are, you can effectively minimize where damage comes from. One of the number one things I see a lot of players do is, for example, I had a session with a student. I'm just gonna re-illustrate this place. These circle buildings on Olympus, where there's like the window and then the two doors on each side, like this.
I hate those
These
buildings so
buildings are
much.
so ass, and I hate them so bad. Right, but
Yeah.
this building, and there's like the center thing in here, and then like some like little things like this and whatever, right? The student, they showed me a clip where they threw a horizontal in the building and they went crazy with damage, but then they got one clipped. The whole problem being that when they peeked this, the door broke and they peeked it,
Yeah.
and now they're exposed from one. Let's not count the ways. Let's just count the angles, right? From a whole 180 degree sphere here, right?
Yeah.
One,
Yeah.
two, three directions. But you can count four here if you want to go as well, right?
Yeah.
When we're peeking and when we're controlling ourselves on geometry, we want to inherently limit um, how many areas we're exposed from. Especially by limiting the areas in which we're exposed in, we can leverage that to make aiming easier for us, right? If opponents can only come from one direction, right? So I suggested to the student that they should peek further back this way, because they threw the horizontal here. They knew people were going to be here, right? So they have one straight line here. Any opponent that wants to peek this person has to come through one single sight line, right? Person over here wants to come swing them. Oh, you have to walk straight in my crosshair. Person over here wants to come over. Oh, you have to walk in my crosshair, right? This is really important to know. This is how if you play 1v1s, you can do this and you are absolutely unstoppable because you will hit every shot. And you take so little damage because you always manipulate the ankles of your opponents, right? You don't always have to go in their face first to help your teammates. I'm sure you know this, but you don't always have to go there and face first. The longer the angle is, we're basically trading. If we're further away, we're taking a more narrow angle, but at the benefit of less exposure. And a less narrow angle can also mean that it's easier for us to hit shots, right? Being closer means we have wider angles, but we are more likely to have higher exposure. Any piece of cover like that can block effective exposure if we know where teams are. If we have good macro, we know where every team is. Like 6 teams remaining, we can just have our back open, and we know that nobody's going to be there as long as somebody's watching it, right? So with all these ideas in mind, thresholds. Let's say we just have a building. It's a nondescript building of any sort. There is a door here, right? When we want to cross through any threshold, we have to make sure that we do so with full capacity, right? The problem being that if someone does not cross a threshold properly, let's say someone goes, "Hey guys, I'm walking in the building." They walk or run. If someone's holding this angle, if someone's holding the threshold properly, which they should be, right? They're gonna die because a bad player can just straight up not move their mouse or their crosshair or whatever, right? A bad player could just one clip you walking in a straight line because they don't have to move their mouse at all. And the thing is that thresholds typically, not always, but typically enforce some sort of strafing restriction to you, right? So where the door would be, you can't move very much in a door. You literally cannot strafe 80-80 in a door. If you do, it does not matter like at all. You can maybe dodge a shot that's overshot to the corner, but a good aimer will know to put the crosshair in the center, and that's it. End of the day, right? So it's important, especially when you enter a threshold, you typically enter into a new area that causes 180 exposure. Yeah. So if this person were to enter the room, they are exposed on, even more than 180 because they have the corners, right? Person walks in here, this is like a 200-degree angle of exposure. Very dangerous. But if they know where opponents are, they can always limit it. They know where people can come from, they can limit it. But if there's no information, it's very dangerous to do. So the other thing being in mind that if we fully cross the threshold, we inherently limit where we can, by playing thresholds properly, we can inherently make opponents, we can make ourselves more dangerous for our opponents to fight, right? So if we tuck against this wall here, right, actually that's the wrong color. If we tuck against this wall here, right, let's say we're 1 HP or we want to hold this building really defensively or whatever, right? We don't need information. We're sitting here waiting. And if a team wants to swing us here, if someone wants to kill you here, they have 2 options. One, they can go over here and maybe see you diagonally like this, right? But the thing is that your damage trades here is 100% equal, right? If you're full HP, you're going to do basically as much damage as you can to them that they're going to do to you. Assuming there's not like a gun difference like R9 versus like Repeater or something like that, you're going to both deal 100% maximum output. It's basically the same as straight famming, right? Because you don't need to move at all. Well, one of you can break it, obviously, and, run like this way, but, it could also be maintained by the person by anti-mirroring here, right? But this angle is, like I said, this angle is very dangerous for the person to take, especially if you're full HP. And even if you're 1 HP and you run in this room and you sit in this corner because there's no door, right? And your teammates are here, if this person swings in the room to come kill you, they're taking so much effective damage from where you guys are, right? That they can't just ape you. They have to take it piece by piece. And, if they win this trade, you're probably getting a bad off or something of some sort. So you have the capacity to fight, things like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, this does run into the problem. The only thing that is a problem here is necessarily if you get swung. Now, I talked about this earlier. If they come in the room properly and they swing you properly, what do? You can counterswing, right? Because counterswinging will allow you to, have your full player sphere. Especially if they like a tap strafe in the room like this to the wall to come fight you, you've pinched them against the wall, right? But the only problem being that you expose yourself to the door. And like I said earlier, when you do this, you have to be conscious of how many people you're fighting. Remember, a disadvantageous 1v1 is better than a neutral ground 1v2 because it's a 1v2, right?
Yeah.
playing around geometry and understanding the limiting angles of how we actually take fights is really important for our consistency. Talk about this a little bit in the. I reviewed the Blackhand VOD a while ago,
Yeah.
and they did this really well on like the first fight I watched from them. The golden rule is basically to never peek more than one person at a time here. Right. Finish the team to chill. I want you guys to understand. There's a lot of free information in the video. So I want you guys to understand. Please, where is it? I think the call for strafing here to chill. They could have pinched. They really the best call place. Important thing to understand is that when you see the angle that Flash Kid's taking here.
Mm-hmm.
He has to just look one direction, and every opponent that can possibly present it to him is going to be here, right? Which again maximizes his damage output. The only way this is going to get negated is if someone swings him. If someone swings him, they're fucking dead. They're crazy, right? They're running into his own space here. So when you're fighting, it's especially important to make sure that you limit how many options opponents have against you, because if you take all of the options away from them, they can't do anything. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, it does.
So the other thing, when you're presented against high ground, this is a common thing that happens a lot. If someone's on high ground, right? High ground's good for like 8 reasons, or 6 or 8 reasons. I don't remember how many. There's a lot of reasons why high ground's good. Right? What's the best way to counter somebody on high ground? Any idea?
Best idea to what?
How do you counter somebody on high ground?
Get right under them, I would say.
Oh, why so?
Because then they have to expose more of their body to peek you.
Exactly, right? This is exposure. This is also player sphere, right? If you take this person's player sphere into account, right? Their player sphere, when they reach the edge, looks like this, right? They can't walk off the edge.
Yeah.
Well, they could, but wouldn't be smart, right? And as soon as they do this, right? You should effectively, well, if you can't obviously can't always afford to, but if we're talking, in a reductionist example, if you slide out as soon as they do this, right? Now they have to back away, but their speed is not going to be higher than your speed, so you could literally walk backwards like this and anti-mirror them. Just straight up hit a whatever the fuck Gamer 7 would call this, half sideways, upside down, long style anti-mirror, right? Where this guy walks backwards and you walk this way, so you literally just maintain the same level of eye contact with this person as you walk backward. They cannot avoid your aim they can't avoid your wrath anymore, right? And this is something that's really important, especially in I would say like 1v1s against like building like rooftops and stuff like that. The other thing I want to talk about especially is cover. So if we have let's do this. A lot of people, specifically when they peek, do stuff like this, where they peek very tight like this. And obviously this is okay to do in certain situations, right? This is okay to do because you don't want to extend from cover, and it's very dangerous to go further than this. But it depends on the damage intake you potentially have, right? Because if opponent knows you're here and they're aiming at you, well, where are they gonna aim? Right here, right? Just at the corner, like very close to the corner. It can be proper strafe aim form to effectively, or not, I don't know why I said strafe aim form. It can be effective strafe to slide out and then walk back into cover here, right? Especially because this timing here, we can unload a lot of our magazine. Especially when it comes to like SMGs, automatic weapons. With a Peter, I would definitely say stay closer to the wall, right? But especially with lower magazine capacity, fast spraying weapons, sliding out like this and then walk back into cover can be a way better form because we're not only one. Again, remember the goal of dodge, avoid their crosshair, right? And if you walk into their crosshair by just slowly peeking the corner, you're not dodging at all, right? You're just looking to trade damage.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're swinging like this into 3 people, you're gonna die. Don't do that against 3 people. But in 1v1s, 1v2s, maybe even, it's still a rather decent strafe function. The other thing I also want to talk about, Blackhand was really good at this last LAN.
Yeah.
There was a team, and they dominated triple fucking M&K. That shit was crazy. There was a team playing like here, and they had like a Watson gen and stuff right here. Blackhand literally just swung them like this. And I want you to think about the idea of player sphere in the context of the situation, right? These players are just going to strafe left and right?
Yeah.
They're
all of them. Yeah.
They're not going to really do much. They might walk at you, but you have the natural advantage over them because they're pinned against a wall. Even if they're not literally backs to the wall, they're as a team, not going to move backward at all. You have the advantage on them, especially if you guys split like this. So one of you moves over here, one of you moves over here. You guys effectively have a pincer on them, right? On all three of them, they're gonna die no matter what here, right? Unless you guys get fried on the cross in, but they smoked it and then swung properly. Proper team play, but all these things that I'm talking about are things that especially Blackhand, but just like are effective MNK. It's not even just MNK, but just effective fighting forms that not a lot of people will use and use. Any of the speed manipulation tactics you have, slide jumps, super glides, anything like that, can all be contextualized in the idea of proper dodge to avoid opponents' crosshairs and effectively deal more damage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you're fighting people, it's really important. I want you to make sure that you're not just fighting straight 50-50s. You're always looking to gain an advantage through dodge and then maintain that advantage through continual use of dodge, or just maintaining that advantage in general, right? If you manage to find yourself behind somebody, keep walking behind them. Don't walk back into their field of view, right? I'm sure you've come behind a controller player and they slowly turn to the right. Make sure you're going left. We always want to maintain these advantages we have. We always want to take fights into procedural steps to make sure we don't catch ourselves off guard. For example, reloading our guns, timing. We don't want timing to be the thing that kills us because we didn't reload our guns earlier. Every reset step we take in the game and every phase that we take, so after a fight, even after every 1v1 or we lose a trade, we always want to take the time to reset, and that includes our guns as a majority, because we want to make sure that we don't get timing in situations. As a general rule of thumb, when we're holding angles like this to try and limit our opponent's overall possible movement, diagonals are a good medium. They're just kind of no matter what diagonal you take is going to limit where opponents can peek you from. Obviously, when you're being aggressive, it's going to be harder to get in there because you have to basically think about player's fear and all that bullshit. But if you're trying to hold an angle, a diagonal, especially on these corner peaks like this, are basically just a solid default. It all depends on boxes and stuff like that, especially as well. The other thing I want to talk about specifically is lurching in a non-dodge, well, I wouldn't say non-dodge, but non-like traditional dodge method. This is something that's really exclusively only to Apex, and I want to talk about a little bit. Remember how earlier I talked about how if you're underneath somebody on high ground, they're not going to walk off the edge, right? The thing is that you can use dodge, or not dodge, you can use lurch to effectively extend your movement radius because you can fly throughout the air, right? You have mid-air control when you're lurching. If you're ever finding yourself on top of a small confined area, so the hallway example I used earlier, right? Now, if this wasn't a hallway, it was instead like a box, right? And you and your opponent both find yourself on top of a box or something like that, right? Where you don't have a lot of strafe space, you don't have a lot of area to do anything, right? Now, if you wanted to get closer to this person, like they're running at you, like it's like a Bangalore and she like speed boost at you, you could literally jump off the box and lurch over to get behind her. Nobody would fucking expect that. I've done it to plenty of players in 1v1s on like the Rock and the old firing range, and it was, I wouldn't say it was devastating, they just had no idea that I was going around them because I dropped from the side and wrapped around, right? It's also important to make sure that you remember that jumping is okay in close range. Jumping is not bad in close range at all. You can raw strafe 100% close range. There is leg shot multiplier in this game. There isn't in a lot of other games. So if you even if you're jumping at somebody in close range and you're jumping like this, obviously a decent player will be able to look up, but if you're close enough, they have a higher chance of hitting your legs and basically no chance of hitting your head at all, right? Especially if you're using proper lurch methodology to do something like where you slide jump like this, jump around them like this, they are gonna have a hard time tracking you because again, your movement speed is not constrained in the air. You're gonna accelerate and go behind them. And this is hard for even this is hard for a proper MNK player to track, and not even to mention controller player, right? Now, what should this person do? If someone's ever doing this to you, you should just back up. You should literally just back up and gain visibility over your opponent, right? For most solutions in strafing and most solutions in gameplay, there's usually a solution that comes intertwined with strafing, such as backing up to gain more visibility, not letting your opponent control the situation. Just remember that you always want to maintain control over the situation, right? Counterswinging is the whole philosophy of that. Holding certain angles certain ways is the whole philosophy of that. Don't let an opponent wrangle control of you. Every single like contest I watched from TSM versus Oxygen, TSM would usually lose because they didn't take control of the situation. They would get cracked and then they would kind of hold the building, and then Oxygen would capitalize off on them and they would die.
Mhm.
Right. Um, they wouldn't do anything. They would just sit there. You have to wrangle control over situations no matter what, especially in Strafe. If you let your opponent strafe however they want, remember, disabling your opponent is better than enabling yourself. So if you play to disable your opponent in getting control of a situation, you're gonna do far better than they will, no matter what. Just on paper, flat out. Make sense? I know
It
I've asked a
does. It
bunch,
does.
but
It does.
I've gone over a lot. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I got the core concept of this lesson down.
okay.
It's like the way you utilize the movement and whatnot.
Yeah, the whole thing we're trying to
Ye-
do. Most of this is contextualized and escaping their POV because
Yeah.
dodging when you can't escape their POV is I wouldn't say
It is.
simpler, but it's not as complicated, not as many options as here.
Yeah.
This is just straight up how you beat controller players most of the time. You have to think about all this. Now, don't tell a controller player this. If you're watching this and you're not a controller, you forget this. Right? Don't tell any if any controller player ever wanted to learn from me, I think I would like make a demon. I don't know. I don't know what happened to the world.
I've I've play. Sometimes you play against in ranked. You play against some of the like the better controller players,
Mhm.
and they do something smart. You're like, oh fuck, it's over.
It's
You know,
over. They're
like
learning.
yeah, they
um,
don't just try to strafe you out in the open. You're like, ah shit.
um, I'd recommend you try a lot of this dodge stuff in R5 or just ranked in general. Yeah,
Yeah, they made downloading R5 easier, but I'm
they did. It's
I'm
literally a one-click install now.
yeah I'm a big fan of just going into ranked and practicing. I
Yeah.
don't know why.
To be
That's
honest
just
with
how I
you,
like.
I played R5 for the first time in years the other day, and the fucking lobbies were dog shit. You have to play like before like
Damn.
scrims. You have to play because like now everybody has it. So there's a lot of really
Yeah,
bad players on, and if you play like before scrim like pro scrims like at like
yeah,
3 p.m. PST, like everybody's on. Like you'll get like Koiful, Sykes, Guild, like so.
yeah. I think there's like I don't know. I think there's like a huge benefits to R5 and stuff, but I
Yeah,
can
there are
never like
absolutely.
I can never engage my brain in a way that it's gonna be like useful for me for more than like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. You don't aim train either, so
Yeah. So
even I've
it's
bothered
like
you to do
that's why I
so.
just yeah.
It's like fun. You don't have to, but I
Yeah.
encourage people to.
Yeah. No, I like when someone asks like what do I do to get better at video game, I'm like, you know, do these practice things
Just
that
like do
I never
this,
knew. Yeah.
like do
I
this.
never yeah, I never do personally.
LiNkzr, do you get good aim? I just like click. I don't know. Any questions about any positions or angles or anything you need to fight or like play or do anything like that? Like any questions about specific or broad strafing, anything like that? You are muted. Is that intentional? Okay, I see what it is.
The muting is not intentional. I'm giga.
Oh,
The thing that I was curious while going into this is that I've been having like the two things I've been struggling with is um like dodging a lot of damage, and that's
mhm.
just because I think I was just like trying to take strafe aims. I wasn't doing trickery.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it trickery because it's
Yeah, I
funny.
mean, hey, that's kind of what it is. It is
Yeah,
trickery. The proper way to do it is to engage in trickery and then strafe aim. Like obviously
yeah,
you can't just raw strafe aim people. You can't just rob from your people. There are times where you should just go where you should just go. I have to take this advantageous 1v1 right now. Like especially when like 1v3. If you have a 1v1,
yeah,
take it now and kill that guy now. So strafe aim him,
yeah,
right? But like you
yeah,
shouldn't go into a fight going, all right, I'm gonna strafe aim. You strafe aim should it come to you, right?
yeah.
Which is
I
the more important thing.
yeah, I've been forcing that a lot. I think it's like I don't know like I think the reason why I've been forcing a lot of strafe aims is because I've been trying to implement like the record control into it.
Mm,
Because even if you like do a pure strafe aim, is
mm.
one thing I noticed that there's still a lot of like inconsistencies within it,
It's
and that's because
it typically comes down to
the
range
this
or speed, right?
yeah, and that's why if I want to make it consistent for myself, it's like one there's the close range,
Mm,
and like I was testing while we were doing this lesson, I was testing like the effective range of like car hipfire
mm,
and R9 hipfire with like laser sights,
mm,
and it's like purple laser sights like 20 meters. You can start hipfiring already
mm,
if you really want to like go speedy. car is like 10, blue is like 15, white is like 10 on R9.
Yeah.
So that was like what I kind of like got to. So that's like something I'm gonna test too, is using the more speed when you're taking the fights.
Yeah.
Like
Speed is really deadly close range. So if you can manipulate speed, just fire somebody close range, you're a lot harder to hit. Just period.
yeah,
Faster
and
means
I
harder to
think
hit as long as you're not moving in a straight line, basically.
it's like playing more cover in general.
Playing cover properly, because if somebody's like,
Yeah.
if somebody's hard hugging cover, their back's to cover, right? Remember the wall analogy, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
their back's against the wall and you hard swing them, their back's to the wall. They only move one of two directions, especially if someone's limited like this, for example. This happened in my 1v1 tournament. A really good highlight of it was Showing Flame versus LiNkzr, where there was a box here, and LiNkzr would objectively play the cover, which most people would say, yeah, that's a good idea to play the cover, right? But the thing
Yeah.
is that LiNkzr would play something like this, and strafing would be here, wide swing out this way, like just do like a slide jump forward, and then LiNkzr would walk backwards like this.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
because that's the reality of an expected player sphere, right? If he swings, like as soon as he swings, LiNkzr is gonna go, and LiNkzr is already gonna start walking here. By the time that strafing gets here, LiNkzr is here. Where's LiNkzr gonna go? Back here, right? This is the whole philosophy of a counter swing, where I thoroughly believe that if LiNkzr counter swung here, LiNkzr would have had a better chance. Strafing has not. I mean, strafing has a 45 here, right? Like I said earlier.
Yeah.
This is just a 45-degree angle here, and just completely like it's way easier for strafing to aim. I don't remember if strafing lost any. Like I know strafing lost some games, but I don't know if strafing lost in any scenarios like this. This is like specifically. And remember that strafe aiming isn't always the answer. It can be the answer. Here, this is not strafe aiming. This is just holding a solid position, but still. But yeah, that's a. You don't just remember to strafe aim in proper situations. Should you ever get like behind somebody, strafe aim the fuck out of them. You're somebody side strafe aim the hell out of them. Like just literally do that. Anything else they had problems or concerns with at all?
I had then. Hold on. Then the other thing I was thinking about is the angle manipulation, like how to. I think I've been like, maybe this is just like a comp thing, but when you're like taking a 3v3 fight, you always try to look for advantages.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it's just like I can get this knock, like I'll get more done here, but it's realistically if I just held like a better angle and just like let my teammates get into even a better position for me to do the swing, I wouldn't have to like risk it all in like a gamble kind of
exactly.
thing.
You're looking to minimize your exposure, especially even if you're not like for example, if there's a team like on like a box here, and then like you knock one like here, and they crawl over here and they start rezzing, your teammates engage over here, right? Even if you're over here, still shooting at them from this direction, you're still applying pressure, and you can get a wider angle by walking diagonally like this way, right? That you effectively limit where they can like actually be. Your team is over here, they should be able to handle themselves just fine. This is a more role dependent thing that comes with like playing like support or playing more of an initiator type role, right? But angle manipulation comes a lot with this, especially because again, the wider you are, especially in when I talk about wider, I mostly mean in reference to geometry, not just in general, not just being closer or further, right? But also if someone, like I said earlier, if someone is further away from you, right? If we bring up the whole top down, I'm not gonna draw the full thing, right? But full cone, right? Someone's far away from you, this person can never escape your crosshair, really. Well, escape your screen, really.
Yeah.
Because they have to move so far away out to get away from it, right? So if you take a really far away angle, like something like this, like over here, right? This team to escape your crosshair has to move into cover over here. But if you were right here, but if you were like right here, okay, right here, closer, they could just go right here and then break your LOS, right? But if you're further over here, they have to go along. Let's go along the entire side to escape your LOS, right?
Yeah. Okay. I think.
And this is obviously you want to run weapons that are effective for this. You don't want to be doing this with R9 PK. That's kind of obvious.
Yeah, I think in terms of like comp, I don't think anyone will ever use a shotgun unless it's like
unless you have to.
A must.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless there's situations when like it's something that I'll keep in mind, but most people will just have SMGs.
I don't know why you would use a shotgun when you use an SMG, which has better range, and you can't get timing with it as easily, and it has more common attachments. Like
Yeah, watch me play like PLQ and I have shotguns in my hand like half the game. It's like off.
well, okay.
Uh,
Yeah, there's
uh,
however, if you do have a shotgun and you are a shotgun enjoyer, just get really close
yeah.
to an SMG player, and then you will shit on them easy.
And the
For like the moving back and forward,
Mm.
the way I thought about it is that like anytime it's like not only like damage reloads, like it's like you do it on damage reloads, uh, and like maybe you do like movement to like get into a better space.
Yeah,
That's something like it's just it's like a pacing thing kind of.
exactly.
It's
It's the
like
tempo. Yeah.
there's like a yeah there's like a rhythm to this game,
Hmm.
and then like use that to like advance kind of.
Yeah.
all right.
Especially if someone doesn't have like control over an angle, you should typically wrangle control over it. So if someone's not watching you, you can just take all the space forward.
Yeah.
Lots of anything else?
I think that's like that's all the info I got on like the my forefront now.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna like try to work on.
Okay. I'll be in your stream and stuff watching. I assume you're gonna stream after this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'll see if I can get the score going.
yeah, I will be watching and all that. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know if I need feedback. If you have questions, let me know. Especially if you have clips.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you
If
know
I
the
get
drill.
any. Yeah. All right. I'll catch you later.
All right.
Thank you.
I will see you about
Yep.
LiNkzr.